It's one of the most iconic moments in the history of golf. The locale, the 18th hole on the stadium course at the Players' Championship. The opponent had won 10 of his previous 16 starts. The golf world was looking for someone who could tame a tiger.
Be the right club.
And with a 6-iron from 179, the moment was born.
Be the right club. Welcome
to the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters.
Be the right club today.
Now, here are your hosts, Mark Greenhalgh and Todd Burrell.
All right, welcome to the Be the Right Club Today podcast, presented by Makefield Putters. End of April, and I'm back, Todd.
Greeny, I missed you. Where you been, man? It's been a minute, hasn't it?
I've been all over the place. I mean, I was in Italy. I was in Dallas. I've been here, there, and everywhere. And it was, let me tell you, even when I got back between those two, Lucas had a soccer tournament. So I was like gone. And then I immediately on the following Monday went to Dallas. So it's been a wild ride. It was good to sleep in the old bed once in a while, though.
Yeah, I bet.
So
off gallivanting.
It was. Thanks for holding the fort down, you and Hal, and you. Got some good feedback from all the stuff that y'all did, so well done. And tonight, we are going to talk about Jim Furyk as the Ryder Cup captain and PGA Tour scheduling fatigue, how much is too much, or what's maybe the right formula, because I know we've talked about some of this before, but we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe we'll touch on a little what the heck is going on with LIV at the end of the show. So let's start with the calendar, and we already know that going forward, we're not going to see either event in Hawaii. Are you going to miss them?
No, and I think we talked about they were probably on the chopping block anyway, and now it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, so, as we talk about this, and, there's tournaments every week, and sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. I don't know. I kind of maybe somewhat like it in the summer, but maybe like in the late winter, early spring, I'm not so sure I enjoy it. Even looking at, we had the Great Masters tournament, and then, we go to Heritage and 9 guys withdraw, in a signature event. So does that really, to you, scream that at a minimum, we should be taking a week off after majors and the Players?
Yeah, putting a signature event right after a major still didn't get it done, right? You still had nine guys withdrawing and taking fines, correct? Because they have to be playing in that. They're supposed to be playing in that event, right?
Well, they can miss one. That used to be the rule. I don't know if they still enforce that or not, because now Rory's missed, he's missing 2 because he's not playing Doral this week. So I don't really think that that's a thing anymore. And I know the tradition says we go to the Masters and then we go down to the Heritage. But man, it just screams like that can be such a good event if you get the max field and get everybody playing. It to me makes sense that you push that back a week. And even the same thing with the Travelers. I mean, you play the US Open, you have the Travelers. That's always been a marginally attended event, and then they made that a signature event, and there's still a bunch of guys that opt out of that one. So to me, man, play the Players, take a week off. Play the Masters, take a week off. Play the PGA, take a week off. Play the US Open week off, and then the Open Championship, take a week off. And it allows guys to maybe savor their major win a little bit, maybe do some corporate sponsor stuff that following week to kind of take it easy. So to me, it screams, man, just take 1 week off after these huge events.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, from your perspective, maybe it's viewer fatigue.
It's both, because if you don't, I mean, who's going to watch Heritage when you lose 9 of the top players?
Yeah, I mean, I paid attention to it just because I know the golf course and it I find that event intriguing, and I think it actually played out to be a pretty good event.
It did,
regardless of who ended up in the field. But I don't know really what they're going to do to figure this out. You've got players out there who like to play their way into majors, who like to play after a major if they've played well and keep things going. You got other guys who like those weeks off, and the question is, who wants to sponsor an event the week before or the week after a major if they feel like half the field that they want there is not going to be there? So I think that's the biggest challenge the tour faces with sponsorship and support, is who's really going to want those events. And if they feel like no one's going to want those, or not, or very few, or they're not willing to ante up the big bucks for them, then maybe they do just skip those weeks.
So my theory is that if we're going to have these tier 1 and tier 2 events, it really gives an opportunity to fill those tier 1 fields. And my thing all along has been, there's going to be some kind of formula, right? The top 50 from the FedEx Cup points that make, the second round of the playoffs, they traditionally get in all the signature events the following year. So if you say they're automatically in the tier 1 events, and let's say that we're having 100 players in these tier 1 events, I got 50 spots left to fill, right? So my thing is, let's just say, let's take the players, or let's take the Masters since it just happened. So we play the Masters. The week after is a tier 2 event. And the tier 2 event, I'm going to take, let's just say, the top, 20 guys. And if it's 20 in ties, so be it. So I take the top 20 in ties. Now I got 70 to 75 or maybe even 80 guys in this field. We know that there's been an A on top 10. There's been an A on top 5. So there's another 15, right? So now I'm at what? Let's just say I'm gaining on my 100 guys. There may be 4 or 5 depending on, the and ties. My field for the Heritage, which is now 2 weeks after Augusta, is now set based on your play last year, some of your guys playing well this year, and your qualifying guys from a tier 2 event. You do that 5 times a year. That seems intriguing to me.
Yeah, and I think when we'll get into LIV later, but I think when LIV popped up, I think it shook the tour up with the scheduling, and it shook the tour up with these signature events, and how do we figure out how to pay players more and keep them and not lose them to LIV? And with everything that's developing with LIV right now, I think the tour is actually getting more leverage to kind of decide how they really want to run their schedule and how they want to run their fields, and if they want to have cuts. And it sounds to me like we'll see what pans out with LIV, but it sounds to me like the tour is going to be able to dictate more to the player. Now, I understand the players it's still a player-driven tour, and they're going to have a lot of influence on what is done. But there's also not going to be an alternative at the highest level money-wise, right? DP World Tour is going to be number 2. So, I think I kind of feel like we're going back to a more traditional schedule with more 4-round, 2-round cuts next year. I hope that's the case in terms of where they're going to place those events throughout the year. I know they've talked about bigger markets and all that stuff. I don't know how that's going to shape out, but I don't know that they're going to have to be so fixated on the details of who gets into what, and because I think the signature stuff's really going away.
Well, it is, but it's going to be tier 1 events. So there's going to be the idea being that our tier 1 events will be like the signature events, except they're probably going to have the 100 player fields or whatever that number's going to be.
And so cuts, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There'll be a cut in every single event. Yeah.
Right. Which is good. I like that. I think the majority of golf fans like the cut.
Yeah.
I feel like the players obviously want the guaranteed check with no cut, but there's additional drama throughout the week, obviously, if there's a cut involved, and there's other things playing with FedEx points and guys needing to get points by making cuts and moving up the money list and that sort of thing.
All right, before we get to our Ryder Cup scenario here, I want to remind everybody about our title sponsor, Makefield Putters. Go to makefieldgolf.com. Check them out. How's that new blade putter working, Todd?
Really good. I love that thing. Still in the bag. Hasn't come out. Tweaked the weighting a little bit, but it's awesome, man. It's a beautiful club. And I sold another Makefield this week. Had a guy customize one. He came out and we fitted him, and he customized it with some colors and put his name on it, and it's actually sitting in the shop right now. I think he's picking it up this weekend. So Makefield products moving, and kind of sells itself. You get it in their hands, and then they roll it, and it seems to do really well once people get a feel for it.
Well, the good news is I had the shoulder looked at last week, got a cortisone shot. Don't think there's anything major going on, doing some physical therapy. So maybe in a couple weeks, I might float down your way and hit a few range balls, and then take a look at that blade putter, get fitted for it, and give our boys at Makefield a call. Absolutely. Come on down. The golf course is in wonderful shape. We bounced back from aeration really well, and we need some rain. We got a couple of days ago. We've got rain on the schedule for Saturday. We need that too, but come on down. You're going to love the golf course and the changes we've made. Nice. I want to also remind everybody about Peak Vision. See like you've never seen before with Peak Vision sunglasses. The difference is immediate. Get ready for the season and use the code GS15 at peakvision.com. That's code GS15. And one last little housekeeping item. Make sure that you're going out to check out the website at betherightclubtoday.com. And when you do that, as of today, Todd, there's a shop out there that you can get your own Be the Right Club Today monogrammed clothing. So, yeah, and accessories. Really cool. Tons of brands on there. You can go get on there, look at all the different brands, get our logo on there. Yeah, check it out. There's a lot of variety on there, good pricing, and like Greeny said, right on the website, and free shipping. Yeah, free shipping on everything. So it's already included in anything that you buy out there. All right, so announcement this week that our next Ryder Cup captain is Jim Furyk. 9 Ryder Cup appearances, the 2018 captaincy, multiple assistant roles. His resume looks good. They got boat raced in France when he was the captain. What was your first thought when he was named? Redemption possibility for him. I like Jim Furyk as a player. I like how competitive he is. He's very stoic. There could be questions related to that and how he's going to get a room going the way that we need it to go in terms of chemistry. But I like him. I mean, he's a grinder. He played and beat some of the best players of this generation, Tiger included at times, and I think he's got experience now, and he's probably going to learn from that first experience, and hopefully do better with it. And he's going to be obviously going up against a guy who's on a streak. So, I think he's going to be better. He's going to learn from last time, and he's going to be better this time. I was not thrilled. I get the redemption thing. I mean, we gave Davis love after the Medina debacle. We gave Davis love Hazeltine, and they won 17-11. Okay, so he had his redemption story. Jim Furyk, 17.5, 10.5 in France. When you look at, it's interesting. His captain's picks did not perform well. And it's interesting, his captain's picks were Phil, Tiger, Bryson, and Tony Finau. And interestingly enough, Todd, the only one that was off the reservation at that point was Tony Finau. Bryson was 9th in the points, Phil was 10th, Tiger was 11th, Finau was 15th. So, yeah. It's not like he was reaching, right? So, no. But when you look at it, Bryson got 0 points, Phil got 0 points, Tiger got 0 points. His one reach, Tony Finau, actually went 2-1 and got 2 points. So, was that you kind of have to pick the next three guys on the list? Let's put it this way. Had he had, what we have now in 6 picks, does he stick with Ricky Fowler at 7, Webb Simpson at 8, and then those, the next 3 and Bryson, Phil, and Tiger at 9, 10, and 11? Probably. Hal always says that it has really not a whole lot to do with the captain. It's how your guys play. I mean, I would probably give him 90% correct to 80 to 90% correct that comes down to the players. But if you do put poor matchups out there as a captain, then I think you do have some responsibility.
Well, sure. And the other thing that, the captain gets credit and the captain it's like the quarterback, right? He gets all the credit when you win and he gets hammered when you lose. And nobody really knows what goes on behind the scenes in terms of who has the influence on the captain and who has his ear making these picks too, because it's not just him in a room by himself going, I'm going to pick that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. There's vice captains involved. Who knows who else is involved behind the scenes in influencing those decisions. But like I said earlier, I think Jim Furyk's a pretty cerebral guy. I think he's reflected on what took place at the last Ryder Cup behind the scenes and on the golf course. And I think that if he feels like the process in which he used to pick for his captain's picks, in which he used, or who he leaned on, or who he listened to, obviously it didn't work great. So maybe he shakes things up a bit. Maybe he relies more on himself. Maybe that was all him, and maybe he relies on talking to some other people this time and leaning on his vice captains a little bit. It's tough to say, but I think it's human nature, especially when you're as cerebral a person as he seems to be and as good a golfer as he was or is, that he's going to improve on his last performance.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting that, and it's what's going to be really interesting is the golf club itself is a Robert Trent Jones golf course, and JP McManus now owns it, but and I don't really remember it. I mean, it's hosted tournaments. It's hosted the Irish Open. He plays his pro-ams out there, latest in 2022. And the sense that I'm getting is it's much more of an American-style golf course. So does it make sense that somebody that's analytical, detail-oriented, it's going to be more of a, Masters type setup, if you will, where there's not as much rough. I don't think they can really grow a whole lot of rough, or there's a lot of space to do that. It could end up being a very good advantage to have Jim Furyk there.
It could. Yeah, it remains to be seen. But the point you made earlier is true. And that what Hal says, I mean, the players need to play. And, as bad as it's been for the U.S. Ryder Cup team of late, it might be good to get off of, it's kind of like my Maple Leafs playing at home. It's kind of good to get out on the road, sometimes. And
not get booed.
Yeah, not get booed by your own fans, or at least feel the pressure from your own media and your own fans. And, obviously they'll have the pressure they put on themselves, and they'll have the hecklers and all that over there. But I think it's almost to the US's benefit. They're going to be probably underdogs on foreign soil, I would think. Maybe not, but to me they are, just based on record alone. But I think it might be a little easier from a pressure standpoint to be out of the U.S. for this next one.
Yeah, and I mean, shoot, you look at it, I mean, it looks like a phenomenal golf course, just looking at some of the pictures. But, I want to know where Steve Stricker is in all this. For me, Steve Stricker is the guy that, to me, turned everything around. When you start looking at what had happened over several years. I mean, yes, Davis Love won at Hazeltine, but you come back the next year and you get blown out in France. You had been blown out, at Glen Eagles the year before that. And, it was like back and forth and back and forth. And you're like, man, you really kind of felt like, even going into Whistling Straits, you kind of felt like, man, this is, we could easily lose this and we could get smoked by this one. And that team, 19-9. I mean, that is one of the bigger blowouts in the history of the tournament, of the event. And I think, God, I'm going back. I think you have to go back to 1967 when it was 23.5 to 8.5, where you had such a big difference in the points.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of guys. We've talked about who we would have picked for the captain and vice captains over a number of podcasts. There are other guys. I don't hate the Furyk pick, as I've already said. I know you don't like it, but there's, I'll ask you, who would you have, Stricker aside, because you've already mentioned him, who else would you have considered? Because, I've named a few guys. I loved Freddie. I don't think that those guys want it. I think that might be the problem. They may have been approached, they may have been talked to, and they may have said no.
I think they waited too long on Freddie at this point.
Yeah, maybe. I think Freddie ultimately wants to do it with Tiger, and that ship may have sailed for good now.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always said that, like, Stricker would have been my guy. You start going, it's hard from that standpoint. Like, Stewart Sink's having way too much fun out on the Champions Tour.
I kind of like the David Duval idea.
Somebody that's not, making a killing on the Champions Tour right now makes sense. Justin Leonard has started playing again. He kind of could have been a pick, but I think he's back out there playing again. Does it have to be a guy that's won a major championship? I don't think so. Even though Keegan had won one,
it doesn't have to be. You look at Ryder Cup studs over the years. A guy who had he not gone to LIV probably would have captained the European team eventually is Ian Poulter. He was unbelievable in the Ryder Cup. Never won a major. He's won some big events, and then he went to LIV and everything kind of fell apart. But that would have been a natural pick for them.
Lee Westwood. Stenson was one and ruined it when he went to LIV. There's, Sergio probably was going to be a captain. They have a bunch of guys that I feel like they can roll out there.
Justin Rose will be a captain.
Justin Rose definitely will be a captain. Don't even get me started on him going out and using F1 McLaren irons. After his debacle with Honda.
That he co-designed.
Oh, God. Just when he started playing good again, he has to go and do something like that. It amazes me. But, we don't have that pipeline of guys. I just don't feel like, you lost Phil, you lost Tiger. Stewart Sink, I don't see. Justin Leonard, I don't see. I don't see these stalwarts of guys. The Hal Suttons, the Tom Watsons, Man, I just don't see who we start rolling out there.
We've already disqualified Zinger for whatever reason. I think
Dustin
obviously
Johnson's not going to be one because he went to LIV.
Yeah, it's Marco
thin.
Mira. Marco Mira.
I think he's gone. I think him and Freddie are in the same category. Like, where were they? Where have they been?
Yeah.
Did we give up too soon on a Tom Watson? He lost at Glen Eagles, but that was a better showing, right?
That's too long ago now.
Phil threw Tom Watson under the bus. Phil threw Hal Sutton under the bus. Phil's thrown a bunch of people under the bus.
Phil throws everybody under the bus.
Yeah, he might as well throw himself under the bus too. But there, I don't know. You had a Tom Lehman, you had Curtis Strange. We had these guys: Crenshaw, Kite, Watkins. Stockton, Floyd, Trevino, Casper, Nicholas, Arnie. We had guys that had this aura about them. And, outside of Tiger, which you got to think at some point it comes back to Tiger once, if he stops rolling cars over, that eventually we get Tiger back out there. And, for me, it makes much better sense that he's not trying to play anymore, that he's the captain, and can focus on this thing. I mean, do you look at Tiger in 2028 as like the redemption story for him? Or whatever it is, 2029, sorry. You look at the redemption story for Tiger in 2029 back on US soil. So to me, that makes sense, but I don't know. I need to see some guys. Like, you need to get Justin Leonard back involved. You need to get Stuart Sink involved. You need these guys that are in their early 50s or even late 40s. I mean, I didn't mind the Keegan Bradley pick. I thought you maybe overlooked some people as a knee-jerk reaction when Tiger wasn't going to do it, and then you were kind of stuck. So I don't know. I need somebody to just make good decisions, and let's see if Furyk does it this time.
I hated the Keegan pick. Hated it from the start. I think that was that started off. Not picking him for the previous Ryder Cups by Zach it started a chain of events that has hurt the team for probably 3 Ryder Cups. Because, first of all, I think we would both agree Keegan should have been picked for the Ryder Cup that he didn't get picked for. Right? By Zach.
True.
I think most people feel that way, right?
True.
Then the optics are, okay, here's a charity captain offer because we should have picked you for the last Ryder Cup and we didn't. So be the captain. They screwed up again because he should have been playing again and not been the captain. He was playing well enough to be on the team. So now he's the captain. He probably, whether he wants to admit it or not, had his head thinking, I could play, because he got asked that question all the way up until he had to make the decision. And they perform poorly. He makes some very questionable decisions. I don't know, again, who played into those decisions behind the scenes, but rolling out the teams that we've talked about in the past that were like the worst odds to win multiple times. I think it was, who was it? It was Morikawa and Georgia Bulldog. Harris English. Rolled him out twice. Everybody on the European side knew that was the worst U.S. team you could possibly put out there. And now we're like, what do we do? What do we do with the next Ryder Cup? I think it's set off a chain of events that is they really need to just hit the reset button. And I don't like having guys captain a team that are so close to being questionable to play on it. I know Tiger did it in the President's Cup and did well in Australia. I get it, but that's Tiger, and that was, a long time ago. So I like a guy who can dedicate himself, like Donald, fully to the captaincy and not have anything distracting him on the playing side of things. Furyk, okay.
Yeah, but he's still playing. I'll throw one out there to you that was a vice captain. And to your point, could it have made sense that Keegan basically picks himself to play and then turns around and Furyk was a vice captain? Go ahead and let Jim Furyk be the captain and he goes and plays. I mean, that could have been the best option, but I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Kevin Kisner could be a Ryder Cup captain to me.
Well, he's well liked for sure by the guys, and that's key. I think he understands camaraderie and chemistry and all those different intangibles that play into a team atmosphere like that. Does he
not really playing that much anymore? Does TV work? But
does he have the respect from a record standpoint of some of the players he's going to be coaching and making decisions on who they're going to play with and so on and so forth? I don't know. I think he's well liked, so I think that could overshadow some of that stuff. But it's so hard to say. I do kind of feel like the U.S. needs to think outside the box with captains, and Furyk's definitely not an outside the box pick.
No, I mean, you had Webb Simpson, Brandt Snedeker, Kevin Kisner, and Gary Woodland were all vice captains, right? And it's like, compared to Thomas Bjorn, Alex Noren, Eduardo Molinari, Jose Maria Olazabal, and Francesco Molinari. Like,
guys who really aren't playing. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Webb Simpson, Brandt Snedeker, Kevin Kisner, those three guys really aren't playing golf anymore. I mean, they don't have status. They're not playing. Kisner does some TV work. Snedeker's had a lot of injuries. Webb Simpson kind of disappeared on us. Luke Donald really wasn't playing anywhere for several years. And it's not like he won a bunch of major championships. He won 0, but he was number 1 in the world. But, he was winning events, but, he wasn't winning WGC events. He wasn't like rocking my world, but maybe that's the concept is, let's get a guy, to your point, who's not playing, who's can put more, can go all in on this thing and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. They need to do something a little different. And Furyk's not different, but I am optimistic that he can be better than he was last time. And hopefully the guys are all playing well going in. I mean, that's a huge factor. Like, you can have guys way up the points list that tail off at the wrong time and aren't full of confidence going into these events. And as you know, like, if you're not playing well going into these events, you will be exposed because at some point you have to play. And they can't hide you throughout the event. If you're on the team, you're going to play and you're going to factor in on whether your team's successful or not.
Yeah. So, all right. Again, I want to remind everybody about Makefield putters. Made right here in the USA. Go to makefieldgolf.com. Check it out. Find out about all the technology, the radial cusp technology, the equator strike that you're more likely to get, reducing the skid effect, all of the customization you can do, all of the personalization, all of the different styles, the mallet, the new blade, the weighting system. Everything is going to help you make more putts, and that is definitely our key. And again, don't forget about the Be the Right Club today.com and the new shop that opened up today.
You hit at least 18 putts around, more like low 30s. So you better make sure you got the right putter in your hand. And I don't think people have spent enough time trying to make sure they have that. Hi, I'm Hal Sutton. 25 years ago, I had the right club at the right moment, and it made a huge difference. Today, I've teamed up with Makefield putters. I now use the right putter today. You see, Makefield has unique radial cusp technology. The ball releases faster off the face and keeps the ball rolling more on its axis. The result is a straighter putt, more on target. When you get everything just right, the putter that fits you just right, the one that you believe in, your confidence should be oozing out of you. So I would encourage all consumers, go to the Makefield website and educate yourself and get fitted correctly, get the right putter in your hand, and there's hope for better putting ahead.
You may have heard that polarized lenses are correct for the golf course. Stop! Polarized lenses can distort depth and diminish detail. Peak Vision's patented dual zone lens is non-polarized. You get 3 times more visual information for sharper reads, faster reactions, and total focus on fairways and greens. Don't buy polarized sunglasses. See like you've never seen before. Visit peakvision.com and use the code GS15. That's code GS15.
Now back to more of Be the Right Club today, presented by Makefield Putters.
Back to it now. Final thing to talk about. It's the gift that keeps on giving, Todd, when we go back and, being in the media. LIV Golf, they just continue to do things to give us something to talk about. Now they have postponed the event in New Orleans with the hope that they get to do it later in the year. Is this strike 2 because you've already lost Patrick Reed and Brooks Koepka this year? Is this strike 2 and the next one you're out?
Is anyone really surprised?
No.
I mean, anybody who looked at this thing from the start, because it was so unclear as to how it was going to function long term, it was an unsustainable model. And like, even if you're relying on the Saudi fund, which is infinite dollars essentially to fund it, they don't want to just burn cash. I mean, they don't want to just burn cash because they have, a plethora of it. They don't want to just light money on fire, and that's essentially what they're doing. It hasn't taken off the way they thought it would. There's all the politicization of it as well on the side of the Saudis trying to get into golf to do this and that on the political side of things. Did anyone ever really think it was going to last? I know the PGA got their shorts in a knot for a period of time, and it changed some things and how the way they do business, and they had to come to the table and talk to LIV at times. But we've talked about it on this podcast for a few months now. Those talks just dried up, went away. And that was the first indication to me that something behind the scenes was broken. And the PGA Tour was just going to continue going the direction they were going, and because they didn't feel threatened anymore. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the sheer fact that they're getting guys coming back and some of the better names. I mean, people pick on Patrick Reed, but dude's won, 2 events already this year on the European Tour, and he's inside the top 30 in the world rankings. And then you got Brooks Koepka, that if he can ever actually put 4 rounds of putting together, he may win a golf tournament. I mean, as bad as he's putted so far this year, like, he's the first alternate this week in a signature event. That's how close he is to reestablishing status of everything on the PGA Tour. And it seems like that he's been hot garbage on the greens. So, if that doesn't scream to people that if you play well, you get rewarded on the PGA Tour, then I don't know what does. But at the same time, the PIF is already talking about pulling their money out. They've pulled their money out of other sports. I mean, I think they may have realized that maybe we did go a little too big too quick on some of these things, and now they're trying to back out. I mean, I'm sure the whole thing in the Strait of Hormuz and moving oil hasn't helped them one bit in terms of funds coming in, but to your point, it wasn't a sustainable model, and then you add other things that happen to that, and suddenly you're bleeding money left and right.
Yeah, the point you make is a good one with the play, right? You play well, everything else takes care of itself, right? And if you're a top-tier player, tours want you to play on their tour, including the PGA Tour. So things kind of work themselves out that way. Regarding LIV, again, they probably got the money to sustain this thing for hundreds of years if they want to, but it's not growing. It's not growing in popularity. It's not growing in people taking it, like serious golf fans taking it seriously. Obviously, there's not a lot of TV money being thrown at it, a little bit, but nothing on the scale of the PGA Tour. And I think the players themselves, some of them were kind of intrigued by it initially. A lot of them were intrigued by the money and the big payday initially. But for me, it goes back to legacy. I've said it on this show before. If you really want to be a legend in the game of golf, nobody's going to remember the LIV event you won. They're going to remember majors, and they're going to remember PGA Tour events with a long history. And events like Jack's event, events like Arnie's event, events like the Byron Nelson, stuff that's got history. Pebble Beach, the iconic venues, all the different things the PGA Tour has built over the years. It would take decades and decades and decades and decades for LIV to get anywhere close to that. And I think they're figuring out now that that's just not a road they want to travel.
Is there a path forward for LIV that maybe takes out U.S. events and just sticks to some Europe, some Asian, And, Australia, the events that do well for them do well in certain venues because they are starved for stars, even though most of their stars are either, older and don't play that great, or, you got Bryson and John Rahm. Is that a sustainable, and is that something that they can go out and get sponsorship? The Singapores, the Bahrains, or wherever they play, the Adelaides, and you could probably throw something in London-ish, but you're not going to sustain in New Orleans, you're not going to sustain in Florida, you're not really going to sustain in the US. So is there a model where they are a non-US tour, now that they've got world ranking points, that if you play well enough you can get some ranking points, you can parlay yourself into other events somewhere? Is it even viable at that point?
I see this going one of two ways. One, they completely dissolve and all the players are left figuring out how they're going to get left in legal battles, figuring out how they're going to get paid, because they're going to have, then the tour's really got all the leverage, and if they want to come back, they're going to be paying all. It's going to be kept times 10, right? Mm-hmm. As far as the penalties. The other, and I don't know that there's even value there to buy them out, but the other is to be bought out by the PGA Tour, and in that negotiation have some type of a pathway back for players, negotiated into that deal. But I don't even know, if I'm Rolap running the tour right now, I think I just sit back and watch this thing implode. I mean, I'm not going to throw money at it. I'm not going to try and buy it out. I'm going to just sit back, watch it implode, and then I'm going to let the players that are of value to me come crawling back, and I'm going to negotiate the best deal for the tour going forward. And I think that's the more likely of the two.
Yeah, I mean, would you offer them 10 cents on the dollar?
If it implodes, like you said, they're going to be begging, and legally they're going to be suing LIV to get paid, because there's all kinds of rumors that guys haven't been paid in 3 months, and I don't know how substantiated they are right now, but there's a lot of financial rumors going around about courses not being compensated, players not getting compensated on time, and on and on. So if that's in fact true and they're just pulling the plug on it, there's going to be a lot of legal. It's probably going to be like a class action deal where all the players get together and do it that way. But
I'm sure John Rahm's owed a couple $100 million at this point. Yeah,
but they'll be in limbo with nowhere to play, and they'll be caught up in legal battle. That's not good for their golf game, and they got nowhere to play unless they do the DP World Tour thing and do what the DP World Tour is requiring for them to come back.
And John Rahm's going to be a petulant little child and still not pay his fine.
Right. So I don't know if this thing blows up. All those guys are kind of like at the mercy of the tours, DP and PGA.
And, at least Bryson has been candid about it. John Rahm's just flat out been mean. And, I think I probably run him up a flagpole.
I think if John Rahm was sitting here on a lie detector right now and we were asking the questions, he would, if he said no to do you regret your decision to go to LIV, it would beep loudly, and there'd be all kinds of lines going up and down the page, because I think he regrets it tremendously. I think acting out in the public the way he's doing is just like a kid who's upset at himself for making a bad decision, and he knows that the only way he's going to be cemented in golf history as a legend is to figure out a way to get back to the tour. That's the only way he's going to do it.
Well, Todd, by the time you come back on the podcast in a couple weeks, it may have imploded. The way things seem to go these days.
It could happen any day. It's a ticking time bomb.
So I appreciate you filling in for me. I should be around for a while now. So we'll be back with Hal next week, and we'll spin Hal's roulette wheel and see who he's going to bring on the show. Again, remind everybody, go out to makefieldgolf.com. If you're in the Charlotte area, go check Todd out at Carolina Lakes. And you never know, you might see me down there hitting golf balls and getting fitted for the blade putter.
Come on down. Check it out.
And again, head out to the BeTheRightClubToday.com. check out the new shop, order yourself some gear. And Todd, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And everybody else, I'll see you next week with Hal Sutton. This is the Be the Right Club Today podcast presented by Makefield Putters.
Thank you for listening to Be the Right Club Today with your host, Hal Sutton and Mark Greenhalgh. Presented by Makefield Putters.
The preceding episode was a production of Moonlight Media Works in association with Walk Marketing.